Good afternoon and welcome to FEO TV Live. This is a pilot project for a webinar which we're going to run in for about half an hour this afternoon. I thought it might be useful just to put the webinar in perspective. Why are we doing it and what are we trying to get out of it? And I suppose most importantly, how can you help us do it? It might be useful to start by going back to the mission of FEO when we started 3 years ago, which was to help businesses or help develop the economy in this part of the world by helping businesses create jobs and wealth. And we've done some great things in schools, breaking down barriers, growing businesses. But we always wanted to try and do something of scale. And one of the ways of doing that is, we hope, through webinars. So our vision for webinars is to try to get to 10,000 businesses in this part of the world. Don't laugh. If we could do it, just imagine the impact if every one of those businesses could create one more job. That would halve unemployment in this part of the world. Job done. Well, this is a pilot, and like all pilots, it's going to be a bit rough and ready. So, you know, we're using this pilot to help us design, working with you to help us design the package that actually goes out live to the businesses of Hull. So the content that we're going to cover this afternoon, what I'm going to be talking about, is probably less important than the technology. Does it work? How easy was it to log on? Can you ask questions online? Yeah? Does it work for you? Is this kind of training helpful? And how can we help other people do it? And at the end, we'll be asking you a few questions, 3 or 4 questions, that we'd like you to come back to Jan or come back to us and give us a feedback. So when we do go live with it, we can make sure it's the best it can be. Okay, so that's kind of, if you like, the introduction. And now I suppose we're going to go into the webinar itself. It's going to be short and sharp, and just to give an example of what it's going to be like when we do go live. When we do go live, we'll be probably using video and PowerPoint slides and clever stuff. But in this, we're just going to be fairly basic. And I've got a couple of people going to help me this afternoon with it who've actually experienced some of the things we've done in FEO. That's Rob Daisley and Mark Eggleston. Okay, so I'm going to be introducing them in a minute. I've lived in this part of the world for 8 years and worked with a number of businesses in Hull and the East Riding, some of the larger ones. And what I've noticed is there's a pattern. I see a number of challenges that those businesses faced. Obviously, I'm not going to name them, but the kind of things that I see on a fairly regular basis are these. Very few have got a strategy, mission, vision, values, the DNA of the business. Very few of them have got that. So if you've got no strategy, how do you decide what the priorities are, what to focus on, etc.? Secondly, a lot of businesses I've worked with are actually very reliant on the CEO or the owner manager, the person running the business, very reliant on them. And that puts real limitations on its ability to grow and create jobs. Thirdly, very few have got processes for working on the business. Very often they're working very busily in the business, doing the best, but actually not actually working on the business to improve its profitability, to improve its sales, etc., etc. And so I think those are 3 of the things. And those 3 things generally lead to relatively low margins, or shall we say less than perhaps margins that people would hope that they'd get. So if we can do something about that, and in terms of in FEO, then certainly we're going to have an impact. And the things that we've done so far, we've created a number of toolkits. And these toolkits, 37 on the website, that you can download for free. They're not to be used by consultants, you can use them yourself. And in other words, to deal with some of these issues. And we recommend them to you. Now today I've got somebody who's actually had a go at using the toolkits, and they're going to share their experiences with us. And that's Rob Daisley. I'd like to welcome Rob this afternoon. Hi Rob.
Hello.
Thanks for coming. Now then Rob, you've had a go at the toolkits. Can you just tell us a little bit about your experiences?
Well, we went sort of down the road, or I went down the road with the toolkits really, just to put a bit of structure back into the business and, just engage the staff more, to be honest. So we went for the sort of SWOT analysis, and that's what we was looking for.
Okay. And how do you actually go about doing that? Do you assemble the staff?
Well, first of all, I sort of downloaded a few of the toolkits and went through it myself, read through it, because I wanted to be very sort of comfortable what I was delivering. So any questions, and I could answer them questions right. And
were they in English? Could you get it?
There was in English, yeah, but it just took a little bit of working out. But once you sort of understood it a lot better, it was easy to deliver. Once I got the staff in, I did it very easily. And the things that came from that, the questions that was brought forward in that analysis, was dealt with by the staff, so they was engaged.
And how did the staff feel about that? Is that something you've not done in the past, in that kind of a way?
Well, I think it was more the fact that there was problems that they felt was in the business that maybe I didn't really see as an issue, and it's maybe called smaller issues such as sort of, motivation and things like that, which was brought forward, and the marketing was a big one. And now I've sort of given that back, given sub-teams, and they deal with it, so that they rectify their own problems, as it were.
So I guess in a way that what Rob's describing there are two of the processes. One, working on the business and getting the staff engaged in that process of working on the business.
Yeah.
And secondly, letting go to grow, getting them involved so that Rob's able to go and do his thing, and other people are dealing with some of the issues in the business. And what benefits do you feel you had from that?
Well, to be honest, on the let go to grow, I mean, it's something I've always done anyway. It's not something, I've always built the business like that from the start. So that wasn't really an issue for me. The issue was more involving them, where I was sort of making the decision for everything, and I needed to let that go. Rather than sort of being the face of the business, it was more the decisions within the business.
Yeah, so I would still argue that you were letting go to go and letting them get them
going. Argue it out if you want,
Okay, so you feel, and have you been able to resolve some of them issues?
Yeah, we've resolved a lot of issues within the business, and we're on the right track. This year was a very good year for us, and I would say off the back of that analysis, definitely.
Okay, so you'd recommend it to people?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So if you look at it, it's 3-4 pages long. Bear with it, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I would say read it, sort of absorb it, take a little bit of time. I think it is a little bit daunting when you read it at first, where it takes a little bit of understanding. But go away, come back to it, and you'll soon understand it. My thing was that I was very, very comfortable before I delivered it.
Okay, so that you make sure you're comfortable before you deliver. That was a key insight.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you've got to read it a few times. It is a little bit daunting at first, where you read it and it's like, I don't know if I can take this on. But
you didn't need a consultant to help you did it. You did it yourself.
Well, I did it, mainly myself, and then right at the end, I spoke to yourself, and you came and just give me 5 minutes really, and just pointed it in the right direction. But nothing.
I haven't sent an invoice for that, have I?
No.
The other thing you had to tell me before I did this, how tall you were. I'd have stood on the box if I don't know.
Yeah.
Rob, brilliant. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
Thanks, Rob. Okay, so there we see an example of somebody using the toolkits in a practical way. So don't be put off by them. Don't be daunted. Just get them, understand them, involve the people. And Rob, I think, has shown us there what can be done with a bit of passion, commitment, and engagement of people. Okay, so the other thing we've done in FEO to deal with these issues of no strategy, dependent on the owner-manager, no working on the business, is we've actually run a series of events. And those were called Let Go to Grow. What do you call it again? Come on, help. Step Change for Growth, that's what I call it. There's no 2 takes on this, there's only 1 take, so you have to put it with that. We've run that in March, and 6 people went on that programme, a series of 6 half days. That's going to be replicated in January of next year, and we're hoping that we're going to be able to do 36 businesses. 6 of the people who attended that business going to work with 6 clients. So there we go, scaling that up. And a number of businesses have been through that and done some significant things in the areas of dealing with customers, getting strategy straight, working on the business, letting go to grow. And I've got another one here today, somebody who's been on through that programme, and I think did a fantastic job from the resources that he had and how he's actually got on and moved his business forward. And that's Mark Eggleston. I'd like to introduce Mark. Welcome, Mark. Thanks for coming today.
Pleasure.
So, Mark, what have you done then?
We've done a lot in the last 6 months. Starting off with the programme with yourself, the key for me was the customer perception survey. I think I'd probably be the first to admit when customer perception surveys arrive on my desk via email or in the post, they probably go straight in the filing cabinet. But the process that you sort of introduced us to was physically ringing people up and speaking to them. So we selected 35 customers. I didn't physically do it myself. I employed a guy that comes in and does a lot of work for me on the HR side, did it for me, and he rang up and asked the specific questions. And we got some interesting results on the back of it. Some that we weren't really expecting, but one of the key ones for me was the fact that WJ Components was all about Mark Eggleston.
Right.
If there was a problem in the business or a problem with a customer, it wasn't deemed as a problem because they'd speak to me and I would fix it for them. Yeah. So that obviously, I was spending a lot of time actually working in the business rather than looking at where we could potentially be going for new customers.
Okay, so what have you done about that then, Mark?
Well, we've done quite a few things. We've employed a workshop supervisor who's specifically in charge of looking after the machines in the factory. We've recently got a graduate from Hull University who's office-based, a very capable young guy who is taking a lot of the day-to-day running of the business away from me. So that's working quite well.
Okay, so that's a classic example of if you're going to let go to grow, you've got to have the resources to do it. Yeah. You can't just stop doing things. So there we see Mark of actually building the resource capability to enable him to do it. I'm glad you didn't do the customer survey yourself, because that would have reinforced all the things that you found out when you did it, wouldn't it?
Absolutely,
but you got somebody else to do it. Yeah, so what else have you done as a result of that? You've got a strategy. I'll help him out. It's on the card. If you haven't got one, send for it. Fantastic. Mark's got a strategy, haven't you?
Yeah, no, I think definitely the step change for growth. It taught you, re-emphasised about your core business and looking at what you're physically doing and where the profit margin is in the business. There were several things that we've got ourselves involved in over the last 6 years that, quite frankly, we'd invested the money in the machinery, but when you look in the cold light of day at the margins that you're achieving, it's not generating any profit for you. You might like doing it and it might think it's part of your business, but the reality of it, it's not. So we've recently stopped doing that altogether, or that one particular element of the business. And there's been a noticeable change in the turnover, because we're focusing more on the core stuff that we do. And fingers crossed to date, the profitability year on year is considerably higher than it was last year.
That's a good example of, strategically, easiest way to make money is to stop losing it, and to know where you are in your business, where you're making money and not making money, and really to have the balls, if you like, to actually to stop doing that and focus on that. And I think that's a great insight for many businesses.
One of the things that we have done with that particularly is we've sold a bit of kit or 2 bits of kit and then reinvested that money back into another machine that was definitely making us money. So we're
even smarter.
Try my best. You've taught me well.
Even smarter. Okay, Mark. Thanks very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. So there we see, a living example of somebody who's been through the programme. I didn't have the resources, but actually got himself the resources, did the survey, developed a strategy, looked at where he made and lost money, did something about it, and he's now achieving the results and he deserves it. And that's a good example of FEO, if you like, at work. And what we're going to try and do through this webinar process is to leverage that. And this vision of 10,000 businesses, I know it sounds crazy, but if we could actually, taking that impact with a whole bunch of businesses in this part of the world, and they can have similar results as Rob has had and Mark has had, then hopefully our vision of trying to help this part of the world, the economy, create jobs and create wealth, can be delivered. So in terms of if we're doing this seminar, this is stop webinar if you like now, but stay there. We'd be doing perhaps a bit more. We'd have some slides and some toolkits for you. We aren't going to do that today. This is just a pilot. What I would encourage you to do if you are watching is to actually have a look at the website and have a look at the toolkits and think, well, what Mark said is absolutely right. Every business I go in, before we do strategy, before we do business plans, we always do a customer perception survey. And that always throws out major issues for the business to work on, where its strengths are, where its weaknesses are. Success comes in the marketplace, not with the geniuses in the boardroom. So we find out what's going on out there and then work backwards and do something about it. And that's what these guys have done. So that's, if you like, the end of the formal webinar. What we'd like you to do now is to, if you've got any questions, and Matt Dassil's here is going to help with this. If you've got any questions, feed me some questions. From what we've covered so far, I'm happy to take them. Matt, have we got any?
Yeah, we have, David. We've got one question come through, and please, feel free to ask some more if you are watching. But one question that we've had through is, when does the next step change for growth programme start?
The next step change for growth programme starts with an open event on the 27th of January. Time and place to be communicated. But 27th of January is one for the diary if you're interested in it. And talk to Jan or Mel. They'll give you some more details. We'll basically be replicating what we did initially, but hopefully with 36 businesses this time. And if there's 36 businesses, the 6 people involved in the first one are going to run the next next group. And if 36 businesses can go on and develop, we get 36 people, then you can see how we could grow that amicably.
A couple more questions, David. One coming from Andrew Horncastle. How do we best get awareness of the webinar to launch this?
I think it's a good question, Andrew. Thanks for that. I think we've got to partner with people. We've got 120 members. There are 26,000 businesses in Hull. One of our partners who we've already had conversations with, who are very interested in partnering with us, is KC Communications. KC have got 16,000 business clients. So if we could find a way of harnessing that and encouraging them to work with us on that, that could give us a significant number of opportunities. And the other group, I think the big group, is the banks. We've already spoken with the banks at length. All the banks in this part of the world, we presented to them, shared our idea with them, and they've offered, well, we've got to do it. They've said we'll get a group of our businesses in our centres and we can stream it to them. So they see that as an opportunity of adding value to their businesses. So I think KC and the banks are two places to start. But I know, Andrew, you're dead keen on joining the dots. And I think the webinar series, if and when we get it up and running, is a great vehicle for joining the dots between the organisations in this part of the world, the banks, KC. I don't know whoever else would want to be involved. But if we do that, then I think we've got a chance of realising our vision. We might not get to 10,000, but actually if we got to a few thousand, it could have a significant impact on this part of the world.
Just one more question. You may have covered this already, David, but Jan's asked, could David explain about the Step Change programme sessions and how much is it?
It's free. Free, that's the good news. Like all FEO things, it's free, comes free. Members donate in the time, and it's a free event. It starts off with the 6 events, 6 half-day workshops. It's built around, each one's built around a toolkit. People then go away and apply it into their business and then come back and share their experiences. And they tell us what they've learned, what benefits they've had, what insights they've got, what they've done about it. And it's a bit sort of manipulative, this, if you like, but they don't want to come back, we've found, and say, I haven't done anything. Amongst their peers, they want to be say, actually, I take pride, I've done this, I've done that. And that's maybe not a great reason for doing it, but they actually do come back and do things. So the 6 half-day events covering things like getting strategy straight, reviewing your business, where you're making or losing money, understanding your customers better, building your team, becoming more efficient, driving out costs, a whole bunch of things. And people do different things depending on where their business is and what they need to do. So it's a comprehensive business improvement growth programme. Got a track record. Started at Durham Business School 20 years ago. It's now used in 14 countries, a number of languages. So it has got a track record, and it just works.
I think that's it for the questions, David. If anybody does want to ask any more through Twitter, they can use the hashtag FEOTV. So that's hashtag FEOTV. Ask your questions through Twitter, and we'll come back to you in future episodes.
Okay, stay there for a minute, because we've got a bit for you to do. This is where we need your help. Yeah. What we'd like you to do is to think about these questions and maybe respond either by Twitter or by email to Jan or Mel. And these are the questions. Is the technology that we've used today, is it easy to use? How can we make it easier? Like logging on and asking questions. How can we make it easier? What can we do to do that? Does this form of training work for you? When we do it for live, we'll be covering toolkits in more depth and inviting you to get more engaged, etc. But does this kind of style of training work for you? What sort of topics would you like to see? What challenges does your business face? And what should we be covering? And I suppose the final question, and probably the most important one, will you be interested in getting involved? Or would you recommend this to other businesses in Hull? Those are the questions. If you could respond to those questions. I've got one final thing to do. And what I'd like to do is to get the team up here, because you can't see them. So come on, Matt, Liam, you don't know these guys. Come on, John, Johnny, leave that camera alone. Come on, leave the camera, come on. Here's the team. Look, so these are the people. Yeah, it takes a lot to produce these things. And here they are, Liam, John, yeah, Johnny, Liam, Matt, our friend Mark here. This is the team, so cheerio from the team. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you. Bye.